Hi, I'm Kim Fox. Welcome to the grad level feature writing class. This semester, we will look at the genre of feature writing and write a number of feature stories and learn how to tell truly compelling stories. I wanted to get you a little up to speed here for this class. In a minute, we'll follow with a PowerPoint presentation with more specific details. But in general, we will meet on Monday nights, and then Wednesday nights session will be online with readings and some video and things to watch. We'll talk about that on Mondays, and we'll go over some of your writing on Mondays as well. I look forward to seeing you this semester. Let's get started with our first lesson on feature writing. Our weekly routine will be our Monday face-to-face class, which we obviously don't have this first week of class due to the holiday. On Wednesdays, we will have a lesson online. You can do this lesson anytime, really. It's posted for the first few weeks are already fully loaded. So Wednesday, there will be an online lesson with readings from the textbook, which I'll talk about in a minute, and additional content, a number of links to feature stories, videos, podcasts, and things like that. This is what the first lesson looks like. If you're going to tracks, you'll see that over on the left toolbar here, each week is labeled. And so during that week, this will be your online lesson. And you'll see from this first lesson, it welcomes you a bit. It also includes readings from the textbook. The textbook is called Feature and Magazine Writing. It's available through Alkek, so you won't have to buy this book unless you just prefer a paper copy. But the library does have a number of copies available in ebook form for you to check out. And we'll go through a number of the chapters. They'll be listed in our Wednesday readings online. You'll also see that this first week, the assignment is posted here. Most of the assignments will be posted in the assignment tool, but this is going to get you started with our Facebook group and talking about our first assignment, which is reviewing Humans of New York, which has some excellent stories, really little vignettes. I've also got a tab called Resources to get you up to speed, because I realize perhaps not everyone comes in with media writing experience. And so this will give you a little bit of background on media writing to potentially make you feel more comfortable with it. The textbook, as I said, is at Alkek, and this is pretty much what we'll do this semester. So we're going to first look at some Humans of New York vignettes, and you'll post those to the Facebook group, some comments on that. But then you're actually going to write 3 short vignettes on the Humans of Texas, sort of along the style of the Humans of New York. We'll also have a profile story, a trend or issue story, a lifestyle story of your choice. Lifestyle encompasses a number of different feature topics, and then our final multimedia story. We will do story pitches when it's time to tackle each new type of feature. You'll come up with some ideas and we'll share those in class and provide feedback. The Facebook group is a private group, but I found that Facebook can be a good way for us to post examples of stories and to provide comment on that. It's a little more user-friendly than the forums and tracks. So this first week, I'd like you to join the Facebook group, and I've provided a link in tracks. So if you'd ask to join the group, then I'll approve that and we can get started. The first thing will just be to give a little introduction of yourself, and then after that, we'll follow along with some commenting on stories. Let's talk a little bit about what feature writing is now. So this story, Fire Burning in Big Bend National Park, is actually a news story, right? So this is not a traditional feature. This is a news story. And the lead is a fire has broke out, which I think I probably should say broken out, at the Big Bend National Park's backcountry in the Juniper Canyon area and the foothills of the Chisos Mountains. So it pretty much gets to the point that there's a fire in Big Bend. This story from The Atlantic is actually a feature story, and it includes a feature documentary. So it's very well done if you want to take some time to watch this and to read this. It says, in Texas, Mexican firefighters are saving the Rio Grande. Known as Los Diablos, or the Devils, the elite firefighting crew is hired by the National Park Service to fight wildfires and conduct controlled burns along the border. And it goes on to just tell you about this group and what they do. So this is a news story. This is much more of a feature presentation on that topic. So news stories look like this. And if you've had some media writing courses or you're sort of familiar because you read news all the time, you'll see that this is a traditional structure for a basic or summary news story. You have the lead, which has sort of the most important facts, and then you have a quote, maybe some more facts, a paraphrase, a quote, and more facts. Or, we structure them in different orders, of course. So we might have the lead, there's a fire in Big Bend, and then some facts about the fire, a paraphrase, some information from a source, a quote from that source, some more facts, and we go on down. These stories are structured so that you can cut off the bottom if you need to, and really because people's attention spans may leave us shortly after the lead. That's a news story. But we're going to be writing feature stories, and they're structured a little differently. Oftentimes, the feature story focuses on a person, or it sets a scene, a little bit like that Big Bend Los Diablos story. So it tells us more about an organization or a group. And so sometimes we go straight from that into a quote, but what a feature story has that a news story doesn't is a nut graph, right? So a nut graph or a nut paragraph really tells us what the story is about. So in this type of a structure, this is the news lead, the lead tells us what the story is about. We get straight to the point. In a feature story, we don't get straight to the point. We create the story for you first, and then we tell you this is what the story is about. We can't leave this nut graph out because the reader will just be wandering around wondering, why are you writing this beautiful story, but why does it matter to me? The nut graph gives you that moment of pause for the reader. This is why this matters, and then you move back into the story. So it's structured a little differently, and oftentimes the end comes back around to that person that we talked about in the lead, or it offers a conclusion, something the news stories don't do. So let's take a look at this story, and it's an example of a feature story that needs a nut graph. So the lead is Fort Davis. In the high mountains of a wild desert, day drains from the sky and night lights appear like halos on the horizon. There's no moon, just Mercury chasing the setting sun in the west, Juniper rising to the east, and another golden light emerging on the northern horizon. Now, we don't really know what this story is about. It sets a beautiful scene of West Texas, but what is this story really about? The reader will give you time to get there, so long as the writing is good and it's interesting at the top. But pretty soon you need to tell me why I'm reading this story. So here's the rest. The view from the McDonald Observatory, considered the crown jewel of the University of Texas system, includes the glow from the Permian Basin oil field, incandescent with the work of 24-hour drilling, fracking, and gas flaring. 4 in every 10 drilling rigs working in the U.S. are in the Permian Basin, and the prolific oil province is creeping closer to the observatory, where astronomers depend on a veil of desert night in the desert mountains of the Big Bend region. So this story is about night sky, right? The dark sky. And in fact, when you first pulled up the story online, you would probably read the headline and you would see what the story is about. Astronomers concerned as oil field light pollution closes in. But we still need to tell you in the story to provide some nut graphs about what this story is going to be about. Now, stories fit into a number of different classifications. We can write a feature story in any number of ways. We can start it in any number of ways. We can write a news story in any number of ways. The reporter gets to decide how the story should be treated. So just like these glasses, where I can drink wine out of any of these glasses, and it still is wine, and I can still enjoy it. But this is my red wine glass. It's made for red wine. So just as we serve drinks, beverages in the appropriate glass, it's important to consider the appropriate method to present a story. So this is Rick Bragg, one of my favorite authors. He won the Pulitzer some years ago for feature writing, and this is a story that we'll read later in the course. This will be one of the links for you. But let's listen to Rick Bragg's lead from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Osceola McCarty spent a lifetime making other people look nice. Day after day, for most of her 87 years, she took in bundles of dirty clothes and made them clean and neat for parties she never attended, weddings to which she was never invited, graduations she never saw. So you can continue to read that story, and like I said, it'll be posted later in the semester. But this story has great detail in it. You really get to know and feel the subject of this story. Now, news features are also a way that we cover events. So if something happens like this, a crisis at UT, we get straight to the point when it happens. We get straight to the point. But then we come back and we tell more of the story. And as we tell more of the story, we often take a feature approach or write feature leads on sort of newsy stories. So in this case, the headline tells us first officer on the scene at the UT stabbing tells his story, so we know what the story is going to do. But this is the lead. Eric Park knew he had to act fast when he learned a knife-wielding man was attacking students on the University of Texas campus. I have to stop him. I have to do it now, the UT police officer remembers, thinking to himself. So this isn't about this just happened. This is about this man recalling what happened and telling his story. So feature stories take all manner of topic, all manner of form. They're published in all sorts of places. Texas Monthly has a number of features. So here's one. Is queso a salad dressing? Texas kosher. Now, this is kind of a funny story about a restaurant that says it has all these salad dressings. Queso, on the other hand, is not one of them, so don't ask for it. And then this is also a Texas Monthly story. This is a story about the wall and about an event that happens in Laredo, and it takes sort of this long, winding way to look at this very important issue. Mother Jones is sort of an alternative publications. They will spend a long time working on projects. So here's a story that they did. My 4 months as a private prison guard. They actually sent a staffer to work in a prison undercover for 4 months. Travel writing is another form of feature writing. So if this is something that interests you, you might be able to do a travel feature during this semester. So Texas's best kept secret, 120-mile long canyon that's grand in its own right. You'll see that travel writing is done, again, across all manner of publications, and you can find some of the best read travel stories if you just even Google that term. Oftentimes, travel stories are done sort of as lists as well, so like the 50 best beaches in the world, those sorts of things, so that's something else we can explore. And travel stories in particular are obviously very visual, but a number of feature stories are strong on the visuals, right? Like, so you're going to tell us, but we also like to be able to see the images that go with your story. So we will be doing photos with all of our stories. So this is what I want you to do in the coming week is just read, right? So read feature stories. Read stories that really draw you in, and read from all different sorts of publications. You know, The Atlantic has great features, the Washington Post, one of my favorite, the New York Times, Texas Monthly, the New Yorker. Just find places to read features and at least read the first bit of them, right? So read the top of a story and see if it draws you in. And we'll talk more about this in the coming weeks.